tonight's episode, Murder by the Numbers.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
There we go. I don't know if there's a weird lag or something, but that certainly seemed like a weird introduction today. Welcome, everybody, to our daily gun show. Come to you live every weeknight at midnight Eastern, and we talk about guns for about an hour. So each night we have an agenda. We have a plan. We don't just go live for the heck of it. We have some focus, and on Mondays, that's motivation, inspiration. Most weeks we try to have somebody to interview, somebody to talk to about their projects or their organizations or just what they do or what they've done or maybe just some insight. And this week I usually invite everybody from the month, and I forgot to do that. So, you know, IRL, as the kids say, things in real life come up, and that happened this month. So I could probably send out some links right now, but I figure in the middle of the night, I don't know how many people are going to be awake. But we can chat about motivation. So I've put a couple of polls out there. We have one in the live comments right now. So the people that are joining live, are welcome to participate in the poll. It's absolutely free. And we got a couple of votes going on over there. We also have some votes on the YouTube poll. So I put up a couple of different polls. So the idea is, or the question is, where do you get your motivation? And I probably should have said, where do you get your 2A motivation? Or your motivation to work on 2A projects would have been a better way to say it. And that's what our show will be about tonight. We've got 4 options, mainly because that's the 4 options YouTube gives us. So I have 2A organizations. I've got crowd effort, like the ability of people together being able to accomplish things. And we've got 2A activists, and then we've got our history. Now, I don't know if I picked the 4 best things or the only 4 things. So if you've got ideas for, if you're paying attention, if you're hanging out live tonight and you've got ideas for other things that might offer motivation or give people some inspiration to keep in the fight or get into the fight or get back into the fight, that's something that's often neglected. We'll talk a little bit about some of that stuff, but we've got some polls to collect actual data. On the YouTube poll, the big one over on the big channel, you can change your vote. So you could vote on one thing, go back, click on something else, and it'll just move your vote over. On the one here on the live chat, whatever you vote for is what it sticks with. So we'll see different results probably, depending on what we get into tonight. So let's see where we go. I don't know how many people are out there. A couple of people are saying, hey, but I don't know how many people are jumping in to have a conversation tonight. We've got Woods out there and G23. So I don't know. We'll see if anybody else shows up tonight to be part of the interactive nature of the internet. I am paused right now, so give me some feedback if the audio is even getting through. I do have, it has happened where I've been sitting here for 10 minutes talking into nothing. So motivation. We've got a couple of things that could get somebody into the fight, some maybe even aware of the fight. So I guess I'll start writing some of this stuff down. I'm going to open up edit into a new tab over here. I guess I'm not screen sharing tonight because, you know, Sharon doesn't always want to join the show. Sometimes she's just not interested. So we're going to open up the description of this video. We're going to hit up enter a bunch of times. Oh yeah, there's Ozzy out there. I forgot about Ozzy. Jumped in. He had posted some backplates over on Instagrams. All right, so we've got the things that might get people into guns, right? And then you got things that'll get people into of 2A. So I think that it goes in this order. You get into guns, and then you get into Second Amendment, right? I think that happens for most people. I mean, there's always going to be exceptions, but I think that's the most part. But I think it doesn't just happen that you become 2A. So I think people get into guns, and then they become aware of 2A, and then at some point they decide to effort in some way for 2A. And then at some point, I guess I probably should be doing this with screen capture. So let me get Sharon over here. She's being lazy. She doesn't feel like showing up. So Sharon, let's get over here. Come on. Come on. If you snap your fingers at her, she'll come over here. And there we go. It's kind of like a robot. I'll move over here, and there we go. So now we got, I guess I should zoom in. Some of the people that have tiny little monitors. A lot of people have 9mm size monitors. All right, so things that get people into guns, we all know that happens. Then there's things that get folks aware of 2A, all right? So that happens. Then they decide to effort for 2A, right? And then maybe they decide to, then they choose. Oops. I'm going to say choose to participate, right? Because I think efforting could be getting the word out, paying dues, you know, being aware, that kind of thing, like getting more than aware, but not quite participating. And then you choose to participate in some way for 2A. Is that a new thing? We just come up with a new thing? Just participate in some way for 2A. It's like a real slight way to get into it, partially. All right, so you participate in some way for 2A. Now, this isn't like everybody goes down this exact path. And let me know, feel free to be part of the conversation, right? You're listening to this. You got fingers and wiggles, or you can got something you can wiggle. I don't want to be fingerist here. I'm just going to assume everybody's got a finger. So a lot of people have pet alligators, other things that prevent them from having the same finger situation the rest of people have. So however it is that you work with your device to get words on the screen to go across the tubes, feel free to be part of the conversation. So you got things that get people into guns. You got things that get folks aware of the Second Amendment part of it. Then they decide maybe to do something for 2A. Maybe at some point, you know, they're getting something out of it and they're motivated. They choose to participate in some way. And then there's the time they spend in 2A. That's what I'm going to call this time. Because this is also some amount of motivation. Because these things, right, what keeps you motivated into guns? I don't know. Not everybody stays motivated the same way, right? Some people are going to buy a gun and put it on a shelf, and they're like, I got a gun. Other people are going to be like, oh, dang, this gun's awesome. I'm going to go look at the store for some more guns. Oh, snap, these guns are crazy cool. I'm going to go talk to people about guns. Oh, I can't get enough of this. And they start buying guns and getting into guns, right? Like, there's people at all kinds of, the whole spectrum of gun awareness there, right? And then at some point, we don't even have to say, but obviously people are going to buy guns, people are going to shoot guns, people are going to become active in a sport or in hunting or whatever it might be. But we're not here to talk about the obvious. So, you know, things that get people into guns are the obvious. We know that. So then what gets folks aware of 2A? So I'm thinking things that get people into guns. I guess I should put it in here just for the hell of it. Hunting probably brings some people in. Hunting might bring some people in, but hunting probably brings more people in. People in huts do have guns. How about personal safety? Because a lot of people get scared. And they buy their guns because they're scared. And now they're like, oh, dang, I got a gun. I'm comfortable with it. Oh, what am I could do other things with this thing? Oh, man. So what's another thing? How about sports? You know, the shooting sports. I've got to put that in there, I guess. Here's why I'm putting it in there. Not because we need to hear it. But I think about keywords. So I'm putting it in there because of keywords. I don't want my channel going to have a bunch of sports garbage in it. So, you know, I don't want like hockey and football and stuff in here. So if I put shooting sports in front of it, it keeps my channel focused on shooting sports or in guns. So, and that's for the robots, not for the humans, in other words. In addition to shooting sports, though, I think you could get people that are just into personal development or marksmanship. I don't think you need to be in shooting sports to appreciate, mastery of your firearm. That's a whole other thing that's fun to do. And I've definitely known people that have spun off into that big time. P.N. Woods is saying family had guns. So things that get you into guns is heredity or family. I don't think heredity is right now. Family. Yep. And I'm going to put in here, you marry into them. A lot of times dudes, especially 9mm shooters, they don't ever had a gun before. And then they marry some girl who knows what a guns are. And then they're like, oh, I'm going to get a gun, but I'm scared, so I'm going to get a 9mm gun. It's a whole thing. But yeah, people marry into getting guns, and then people just get born into having guns. Is it better to be born into having guns, or is it better to be married into having guns? I'm going to leave that up to you. You don't have to answer that, but we all know. We all know. So let's see. What else we got? Woods folk, okay, yep, there we go. Family tradition, oh, that's a good one. I'm going to say tradition and then marry. Might be a family tradition to get married, but that's all another thing. So yeah, there's these things that get people into guns. Again, they're kind of obvious, so we're going to leave that go for a bit, but that's for the logarithms and for, I guess, if some non-gun person reads this or something, put it in some context. But here's the real thing we're here for. Things that get folks aware of 2A. So usually it's some sort of an infringement, right? Like, oh, you can't buy that, or you can't get it with it. You can't do that. So although I'm going to put right along with that, like sorry, I heard something going on outside. Choices are limited. So they go to the store, they go, oh, I want to buy the gun like whatever dude had in Miami Vice. So he's like, you can't buy that. Well, you can, but it's going to take you a long time, and it's a bunch of registered garbage and takes money and blah, blah. Oh, man, I thought you could just buy that gun. Or they go, bring me the gun of Rambo. And then they're like, which one? And he goes, no, the one from Rambo 1. He goes, yeah, you got to buy one of them off of somebody because you can't just buy a new one after 86. And that means that there's fewer of them because there wasn't that many of them made between whatever, 60s and 70 and 86. So, they cost a lot of money. Cost as much as a car, really. So anyway, there's choices are limited. Sometimes that wakes people up about infringements. How about the news? Unless you got your head under a rock with everybody hating guns, I'd say the news of the day is probably a thing that gets people aware of the Second Amendment thing. I'm going to say family again. I'm going to say it right away. Some people grow up hating guns. Some people grow up loving guns. So I'm going to say family customs. No? I'm going to use customs. Just getting keywords. All right. So if I was using a better platform, I could bold this. I would really like that part to be bold already, or maybe even a bit larger font size. And same thing here. I'm okay with YouTube's choice of font. I like it. But what I don't like is that I can't format it more than that. Pretty lame, actually. I should have probably started opening these things in, what's that thing called? Spread stack or something? Stack? Some kind of stack that lets you format everything right away. Or I could just make it in Patreon. I probably should just be building these things in Patreon instead of over here. Because then I could put pictures in. that kind of thing. So this is effectively how you make a blog post. We're doing it live because we're having a discussion and trying to get people to participate, just like Woods is doing here, and everybody else that's here is free to do. So we're looking at what gives you motivation as a Second Amendment activist, right? And we have a couple of items in the polls going on over on the big YouTube channel, which I'll refresh over here. Something like this won't get as many votes as if I put in there, like, what breakfast cereal do you like? Or, you know, how crispy do you like your bacon? That kind of poll gets all kinds of response. You know, something about like this, about Second Amendment stuff in the middle of the night, for some reason, you don't get a lot of response to those kind of polls. So over here on the YouTube, though, on the live chat, we're heavy on the 2A activists. That's coming in at 67% right now. It's 2A organizations, I'm guessing, are at 1 vote, with crowd efforting at 1 vote. I think you would put rallies under crowd effort, right? Like people getting together. I didn't want to put it as lobbyists because I think of it as more like a group of people doing something. But I'd say the organizations probably could organize a rally, but what they actually do is bring crowds together. So I'm going to call like a rally a crowd effort. But other things also. I mean, you got your crowd efforts in lots of different ways these days when they use the internet to bring people together to affect, or to, you know, to combine resources. And then nobody's calling history a motivation. So I wonder if that's a factor of, you know, nobody's focusing on it, we don't think about it, or people just don't tend to look backwards. Let's see. We're just saying, buying a house I bought way more, paid more attention to local and state. Things that kept people aware of 2A, you're saying like moving or buying a home? I don't know if that's what you're saying, but I think that could be a thing, so I'm putting it in here. Bacon should hold shape. Jiggly bacon is, well, here's first off, you can make bacon too crispy, and then what you got is bacon bits. So you go, ugh, this bacon's too crispy, and then you get more bacon. So are you really worse off when you get it too crispy? Because you go, oh, this is too crispy, I need different bacon. And they go, oh, let me bring you some more. All right, pro tip. Just put that bacon that's too crispy in a napkin, or put it on your something else like bacon bits, or you give it to a dog. A dog doesn't care what size bacon is. Then you eat the regular kind of bacon. Or it's too raw, and in which case you put it in a napkin, you go, that bacon was too raw, I need better bacon. And then you take that raw bacon, you cook it later because it's still bacon, you just have to cook it more. Or give it to a dog because they'll eat it whatever size. The dog will probably get bacon worms in it, but they don't care. All right, so a little bacon side chat there. So we've got people that get into guns, and then certain people are going to get into 2A because of these different things. Feel free to leave your suggestions, and if you're listening to this in the future, we're leaving this in we're building the description of this video, so you'll be able to check out the description of this video. More than likely, I'll stick this over on Substack. Also, that's the name of that stack I was thinking of, the Substack. Is that a ghost? Maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of ghosts in Arizona walking around the deserts and stuff. Right now we're having a real windy day. So is that a ghost of a tumbleweed slamming my doors around? But let's open up that door because that's like basically a free fan. It's like nature's fan when there's wind blowing. All right. Now I shoved the thing in front of the door. So we got people get aware of 2A in some way, but then they got to decide to do something for 2A. So what gets, and I guess I was saying, feel free if you're listening to this in the future to read the description or read the Substack. And, you know, if I didn't include something by the time this is all over, it's really weird talking about the future. But by the time this is done, it's going to be more than what it is right now. If we've missed something in it, or as you're listening to this, you're yelling at the screen and I'm still not understanding what you're saying, then, and you didn't write it down the right way, then, or I wasn't able to read it at least, like Woods right now. I don't know, Gunpowder put a whole bunch of like cartoon characters down. Sometimes people will misunderstand the cartoon characters. To me, a lot of them look like tacos. So if there's some kind of misunderstanding, then feel free to leave a comment, I guess is what I'm getting at. Feel free to let us know if we're missing something here, or if you'd like to add something in the future. All right, so let's get back to it. We've got people that get into guns, and then some people are going to become aware of 2A. We'll come back and hit those again in a second. But then some people, once they become aware of 2A, they're going to decide to do something for 2A. And I'm thinking that they're going to be outraged by the situation, whatever it is they come across. Oh, I can't buy short rifles, or oh, they won't let me do something about ammo, or oh, I gotta put my name on some list for this, right? Whatever it is, I think they can get outraged by the initial situation. But I think also that whole thing about moving and relocating, I think that's a wake-up call for some people. If you're not paying attention and you just assume and you just you're not even paying attention, and then you move to another state, now all of a sudden there's infringements. That's a wake-up call. So you might decide to go straight from this aware to doing something about it. Let's say tightening the noose, so like the changing or the growth of infringements, or what would you call that? I don't know what to call, like the more infringements, like additional infringements. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm okay with this level of infringements, but then it becomes a little bit more, and then they're like, you know what, that's true, that was the line, and that was where I'm going to start doing something about it. I'm going to say there's also people that start doing stuff, in my opinion, especially this individual activists, when they are frustrated out of frustration. So decide to do something out of frustration, either because of something or because of something else, right? And I don't know if these are all good, positive reasons, or if these are, just what is out there. Alan Anchor's out there. Good evening. Let's see. Yes, I have more 2A for my community. I don't know what that means. I feel it means he's sharing bacon, probably. So at some point become aware of the 2A situations, but all right, now they're doing something about it. And once they do something about it, again, that can be, I think for most people it is, paying off an organization to do their work for them. So give $30 to do whatever the organization's tasked to do. But then also a lot of people, I think, when they decide to do something, they're going to start being vocal about it. They're going to start figuring out what's up and then letting other people know about what's up, right? Like that's grassroots. That's the lawn right there. Some of those organizations give you your bearings, or they give you some examples, but they're overall they're only able to do that. They're only able to point the way, right? So you get all the people doing stuff. So decide to effort. Maybe outcome of a vote or something. I don't know, is that the same thing? Like they decide to effort. Well, I'm going to keep going. I don't want to put vote in there. Same thing with the keywords, and I'll be tagged for being blah, 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 worried about voting. So, but whatever it is, we got things that get people to decide to 2A. And I'm also looking in case I'm missing a level here. Like if I'm missing a level or missing a valid branch or something, let me know. So let's say they decide to effort, and then at some point they're going to do more than just effort. And again, effort's like that minimal level and awareness and having conversations. Like it's on your radar, and you're an activist at this point. At least I believe you're an activist at this point. A lot of people would probably debate me on that. Like, are you an activist just by paying $30 to an organization? Yeah, hell yeah. Like those organizations wouldn't exist without $30. Are you more of an activist if you give like stuff to more than one organization? Yeah. But you can only get like X amount of hit points that way, like X amount of 2A points that way. Like, that's necessary, but it's not all there is. So the people that get out and start learning about the issues and then having conversations at the gun shop and the gun show, I mean, that's most of it right there. So I definitely would call that an activist. So, but then at some point people are going to be like, no, I got to do more than that. So I think that's when you maybe start to see some, I'm going to say see the cycles, because I keep saying that, but you're going to see maybe patterns, for similarities. Here's the thing too, because I've been hanging out with 2A, but it's got to be this way with everything else out there. Let's say that you've got I ran a website for a bass club for a number of years, and the people would get into bass clubbing or bass fishing, I guess, and then you didn't technically club the bass or you fish the bass. You would get into bass fishing, and then you would figure out that you could join a club, and then you had to decide if you wanted to stick around the club, because it's effectively people that fish pretty much every weekend at the very few lakes we have in Arizona, pretty much for the same fish all the time, because there can't be that many fish. And it's pretty competitive. Like they do it a lot. Like it's just as competitive as any kind of competitive shooting. And you need a boat and everything, but you don't, you can get a boat, you don't need a boat kind of thing. And anyway, there's this, I don't know, it's not like jump roping where all you need is a jump rope or a piece of electric cord and you could be in the jump rope club or something like that. You need a little bit more facilities than that, or resources than that. So the bass club at least would have people that got interested. They'd find the club, they dig the club, they'd stick around the club for a while, gone. Their bass boat broke. Those things are like expensive as a car. So if something like that breaks, they're just out of it. They're not going to try to fix that. If that stressed their marriage out or something, like they just spend a lot of money on that stuff. And then, if it all doesn't do what they want out of it, then they go away from it pretty hard. Some people keep fishing. Some people fish for the hell of it. Some people go back down to that level. But I'm saying it's the same thing in all different places. I'm sure it's like that with horses, four-wheelers, off-roaders. I can't think all the stuff that other people do. I just think of the stuff people do in Arizona. But for all these different things that people are interested in, pay attention to, even things like the environment. It's not real hard the most hardcore environmentalists can't do. There's no way they can be an environmentalist. They can only act like they want to be an environmentalist, because at least if they live in 2022, they're wasting and doing so many things that they have to ignore. That, what I'm saying? So people are all going to pick how much effort they're going to put into stuff. So I think choosing to participate comes from similarities, I guess is what I'm getting at. Their participation in 2A, when they see that 2A has become something they're interested in, right? Like they like guns. They figured out 2A is important because that protects it all. And then they decided to start doing something, and they figured out, I need to do more. I need to participate in this. I can't just be here and be in the crowd. I need to be in the game. So maybe this is being in the game, but this is becoming a professional. So this is your, I go to the parade. I like it. Guns are cool. This is like, what? Let's make sure that everybody knows about the parade. Let's hype up the parade, maybe even get a float in the parade. These people are like, oh, we got a float in the parade, and we've been in the parade for a while, right? And then these are people that are, I don't know if the parade analogy still goes here, but these are people that have been watching the parade for years and maybe go to parades in different countries or something and see the tendencies of parades. So I don't know if that's the right one either. But let's say that they've been participating for a while, and then you go, or you've been participating in other things, right? Maybe it's parades, maybe it's horses, maybe it's all those other things I mentioned. Pick your hobbies and think about how, there's all these different levels and intricacies, and you've decided what level you're going to get into, and people at a more basic browsing level, and people at a much more advanced, intricate level, right? Let's say that the hobby is stained glassery. Who knows? It could, I'm just picking something out of thin air. Maybe it's staining glass and whatever they do that. So let's say that you've got that experience though, right? That life experience. Then you come along and you can have this life experience from being a little kid, because this dynamic is just, I think, from any number of people trying to do the same thing at the same time. You're going to have different dynamics that happen. So people with life experience come to 2A and they start to see their interaction, and they see the tendencies and the trends, and they go, here's what I'm experiencing. I see a pattern. I see a similarity to something else I've done in my life. And that's where I think you see people start to participate, because they say, oh, you know what, this has happened in another realm or at another time or another whatever. And I feel with some influence here, there a positive effect could be made. So I think that's one of the things that gets people to start participating. I think there's also, it took a long time just to explain that one of it, because there's more reasons for people to participate, of course. Feel free to be part of the conversation by dropping your ideas for this. There's a little bit of a lag, so it can be a little bit weird, and I might forget or not see what you type there. So feel free to put some context with the suggestions you type in there. So let's say another way for people to start participating is because of their skill set. Like they want to add their skill set to the mix, or to the, I'm going to just say to the mix. I guess I should type the whole thing and see what happens when I try to type and talk. They want to add. So I don't know if y'all have been paying attention, but there's been quite a few people who've come along and said, hey, Second Amendment is cool. It's important to me. And there's this missing. Oh, I'm one of these people. Like, hey, there's something missing. As I'm saying it, I'm like, oh, shit, this happened to me. Like, hey, there's something missing. And I've done this before, so I have some experience with this. Let me offer my experience. And then, that's one of the reasons people get into the whole participation. Like, oh, you know what? Nobody has, I don't know, let's say stained glassery again. Like, oh, there's nobody that's got stained glass. We need stained glass work for this, but we don't have any stained glass stuff. Well, somebody can go, oh, dang, I can do that. So, then they start bringing that to the table. So there's, I think, that we see people, especially with the internet, we see that with like publishing and reach with different types of marketing and social media stuff as it's expanded, and the new ones evolve. We see people that don't have a ton of lifetime experience, but they've got knowledge and awareness of a platform. They don't have insight into the industry, but they've got the ability to get the information out to a lot of people in a way like a video or like a podcast or something. So as these new things develop and tons of new tools are made, we're going to see people with their skill sets and with their abilities wanting to come to the table. And anyway, that's one of the reasons we're writing this down, because we win when we figure that out. And I don't think, here's another thing, throwing this out there on how many people are participating in this. Right now, there's a bunch of stained glass conversation happening for some reason. But I don't think it has to be in this order. I think that some people get into guns and then they become aware of 2A, and then they decide to effort to 2A, and then they decide to participate in 2A. We're not done, of course. There's some other steps here, but people can fast forward or jump in. A lot of people cut in line. That happens all the time. So let's say there's reasons for you to start participating. Maybe, well, I don't know. We could sit here forever thinking of suggestions here. I'd like to have at least 3. So if somebody wants to participate, I'm going to move on to the next one. But another reason why people would want to participate, oh, I know. A reason why we saw the DC project happen would be in order to offer a counter message to the ignorance, right? I mean, that's, I think, the easiest way to say it, at least the way I'm saying it right now. Gunpowder saying, is she allowed to be up this late? Social media is always changing and growing. Getting the message out there is easier now more than ever. Yep, for sure. And the problem is that because, well, in that same time, while that's happening, the people that know stuff, say stuff, have something interesting to say, either don't value or don't know how to, often don't value or often don't know how to put it on the internet. We are seeing that change as it gets easier and easier. Weirder, older people are participating. They're less scared to participate or less willing to participate. And then they're more able to participate because all you need to do is wiggle on a screen most of the time now. I mean, my phone's super old, and I'm still amazed at what it can do. Anyhow, so the new ones are essentially magic. Let's see. So you can make fancy holsters that spark conversations. Yeah. As part of a participating. Yeah, for sure. Not out of fear, just figure out they were not prepared to protect themselves. Well, if you're trying to protect yourself, you've got an understanding that there's a danger. And if your understanding of danger has changed from none to some, I call that fear. But I'm not saying that they are just in general afraid, but fear instigated that getting people into guns, if that's what we're talking about. But I didn't put fear here anyway. I put personal safety. So I didn't want to get people offended or anything. Oh man, my computer's getting all slow again. I got to figure out what's going on with this thing. So there is a time they spend in 2A. So we've got our 3 points now for the participation side, but feel free to, again, come up with other ways that people might be participating or reasons why they would start to participate rather than just be a participant or just be an enthusiast or whatever. But then there's this time they spend in 2A, right? So there's going to be the time that people are members of organizations. I like to say .orgs. .orgs, and then there's going to be, why's my computer acting so horrible? Should I turn off this monitor? There'll be times when they're members of communities. Or groups. So, like, let's say cowboy action shooters, let's say, online forum, like, let's say people that go to competition shoots, people that go to gun shows, right? There's these different groups and communities of people. And I'm guessing most people probably, actually, that's a good question. How many groups, depending on what the groups are, but if you figure everything you could think of as a separate group, how many groups do people travel through? I'm going to say probably 5 or 6, if literally you count everything, because not everybody's all that interested in guns. Guns are just a thing to so many people. Definitely in the average, it's probably less than 5 communities or groups that they're going to get into. So that means that, well, let's keep going. So they've got the organizations that we're going to be part of. They got the communities and groups. And then let's not forget the actual time they're going to spend at the range, right? Like time on the trigger. Okay, so then they're going to have the time they spend in 2A is also going to have some training potentially. Time and effort. If you're talking training, like doing some online course where you have to schedule, an afternoon and listen into the radio to do it, versus spending a bunch of money to actually travel somewhere and then bring a bunch of ammo and then make sure your stuff is all working and probably have backups to everything, and then take time off of work to get there and take time away from the family and then do it, and then take all the heat from everybody who gives you shit for spending time on an effort like that. There's a lot of effort spent on training. So I think that is part of the grind, part of the effort spent, because I don't want to just assume that people get to these plateaus and then there you are, ding, you're at that plateau and it's just easy to coast there and just exist there. Some of these take a lot of freaking effort. To be a participant in 2A, choose to participate, people that have channels and projects, that's another way. People are going to start projects and they're going to start channels all the time. When it's, like you say, it gets easier and easier to actually build stuff or get into something whenever the new one. So some people are going to participate. Dang, I'm going to put it in here. They want to add their skill set. I'm going to say they want to add 2A to the new, I'm going to say, I'm going to keep saying platform all the time, to the new area, to the, Where's Puppy? Puppy, come here. Puppy. Puppy. Come here. Puppy. All right, I'll be back in a minute here. Why don't we do a commercial for our show that we do on Saturday with Clover and Tony. AskGunQuestions.com is a website that we built back in 2007. And since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions. All right, well, so I remember where we're at. On Saturdays, though, Clover and Tony jump in and we answer gun questions. You can go to AskGunQuestions.com, put them in there, and we'll answer them on Saturdays. All right, well, I kind of forgot where I was at. We get coyotes around here sometimes. I was making sure she'll sit there looking out the door at a coyote, and then a bunch of coyotes will come up and sniff at her. And then, I don't want a bunch of coyotes looking at her. Let's see. So there's time spent. I was saying about how there's effort spent in training. I was going to say they want to add 2A to the new areas that are created. And that could be, platforms right now, but at first it was YouTube. Like I remember being in the push to put guns on YouTube. And YouTube wasn't a platform. We didn't have platforms back then. We call them platforms now, and we'll call them something different because now everybody knows what platforms are. We'll call them something different in the future. Just like, when magazines happened, did they call them newspapers? Not really, but eventually magazines, periodicals are a whole different thing. Cable wasn't really broadcast, but it became a whole different thing. So cable at the beginning wasn't the same as cable at the end, or cable right now, I guess. So actually, it's nothing like cable right now, right? So, we're going to have something different in the future, but people who understand, master, find success, want to share, and then are greedy, want to exploit. There's a lot of exploiters here, act like everybody's doing this for everybody's best interest. There's going to be people that want to just bring the Second Amendment to those places, and there's good, there's validity in that. Okay, so not I think that one's already in there. So clothes make good conversation starter. I put a Hell No Joe onesie on the baby with a gun on it and was surprised how many positive conversations came from our time in town. Let's see. So then, I don't know, that would be, I guess, putting effort in or participating somewhere in there. Because I think it would be like if you're driving around with a convertible and like holding the baby up as you're driving around and letting everybody see it in a parade type of thing. That's probably the effort. And then standing there and having the conversation afterwards would be the participation, right? So there's, duality. There's like these things aren't separate. These are just ways to consider the different levels or aspects to it. So there's this time that's spent, and there's probably, again, difficult to break away and create another level here because there's so much to dig into on these separate levels, but the goal here is to accomplish a bigger view of this whole thing. So then there's this time that people spend in 2A, and then what happens? Then there's the transition. I don't know how to use that word. Let's use the well, I don't know what to call it. Like, but there's going to be some level of disinterest or lack of satisfaction. Maybe that's the word. So there's going to be at some point, at least, again, not everybody has the same path, but at some point, what I find, and I think we're, unless somebody suggests that they don't see this happen, is that people are going to get something that's going to get them disinterested and start to kind of pull back. And that can happen quickly. It can happen slowly. It can happen, in different ways for different folks. I think typically it's just gone. And it's tough because a lot of things can create reasons for that, but obviously lack of ability is the big one, right? There's a million reasons why somebody can't do something. So, all of those are their business and private, but, it's one of those things that we're going to have. The reason we're having this conversation is because as a group, it's something that we deal with, right? Everybody dies. Everybody gets rich and goes on and does other things because they don't care about this anymore. Everybody can get poor and gets sick of dealing with this because they can't deal with it anymore. Everybody moves to a city where it doesn't matter anymore because they got good laws, right? Like there's something that changes people's deal. So I guess lack of ability covers a lot of it. I don't know how many to put in here, but the goal would be to think about the things that would get somebody over here. So disillusionment in a specific effort or a thing, or maybe even, is that the right word? I guess it's a word because it spell checked it. In a project or campaign. And then there's probably some other ones here. Life balance. So, I don't know what to call life balance. Okay. So, I mean, I guess that's for everything, but we can call it one of those, and maybe I'm missing something, but if we're just talking the amount of time spent on any effort, like I say, that's one of those things that is going to happen with any hobby or any amount of work that somebody does towards an effort. If you're a volunteer or if you're a member of something, then the amount of time you spend on it is going to have to be in balance with whatever you got for vacation time and family time and stuff like that. Would you put again, lack of ability, I think maybe it's too broad because I'm thinking of a lot of stuff in there. But situation changing, or I was going to say the having lack of support. So I'm going to put lack of support in there because I think that one is a more broad one. I guess I was thinking of when you went with saying life balance, I'm thinking family life and spare time and time spent and that kind of thing. So hang on, I was just typing it. Having oh man, I just had it. Lack of support. So right. So the life balance, I'm going to say in here, like life change also. Is that the right way to say it? Because there's so many things that can cause you to not be able to do it. And maybe that is what I was really thinking about with lack of ability. And lack of ability covers too much. So I'm going to get rid of it. So we're going to say like life challenge and or balances and life change, and meaning like the things that are personal and that we can't do nothing about. Then I think I'm going to leave that in there, because this could be other things. This could be like, I'm going to say personal over here. I don't know if this is the best way. We're kind of figuring this out. Obviously, there's no script for this. So, Ting Ting is saying, I love history and I firmly believe in our American history. Okay. Oh, are you talking about the poll? Let's take a second. DJ's out there. Ting Ting showed up. I don't know if anybody else is new since when I said hey before, but welcome everybody for joining the show live. I guess we're about an hour into it. So the idea is to talk about motivation, and I have a couple of polls going. I'm going to refresh the one poll that I think I have to refresh all the time. And it's got 10 votes, which is kind of unusual for the middle of the night. And I had to vote on this one, so I can change this one everywhere. So it's really got 9 votes. And it looks like approximately 20%. Well, I think I had it on crowd effort. So 10% on 2a.orgs, not the 2a.org, because that's one individual organization and not too many people support it. You got the 2A organizations in general. You got your crowd effort, like the grassroots effort is what I should have put in there. You got your 2A activists, like the individuals, right, that do stuff. And then you've got our history. So what's winning is crowd effort, but mainly because I voted on it. If I move my vote, I have it logged into this thing, so I have to move the vote. So right now it looks like crowd effort is actually tied with 2A history. And then 2A activism is coming in second, and 2A organization is coming in third. And I can determine that by moving my vote around. And it's got pictures, so it's a way funner poll. But over here on the YouTube live chat, we have a different result. We've got 2A activists winning with 2A history coming in second. And then I didn't have to vote on this one, so I'm not obscuring the vote. Just looks like one vote each for organizations and crowd grassroots efforts. I wonder if the results here if a factor of the results here are that we haven't had a grassroots campaign be successful in a little while. So lack of satisfaction, guess what I'm putting in here? Few wins. I'm going to say few recent wins, because I think some people, if they don't see, that was one of the things I was going to say, recent wins for 2A, just to make it clear. I think some people get into guns. Let's go through the whole thing again for the people that just showed up. So we're trying to figure out what gets people motivated as a Second Amendment activist in 2022. So try to break it down into things that get people into guns. You get things that get people aware of Second Amendment from just being a gun owner. And then there's that level where you decide to put some effort into the Second Amendment, even if it's something like just becoming aware and having conversations and maybe donating a couple of bucks to a cause or something. And then you get participation at the next level where you become a member, you do stuff, you're attending rallies. I guess we could put attending rallies in here. For me, at least, going to 2A events is when I became an activist. One, I could go, wow, this was really neat. It was like literally palatable. Is that the right word? Like you could feel the 2A in the room, but at the same time, being a typical mansplainer, somebody who knows more than a lot of people, I was like, come on, man, they could be doing this a lot better. So I was like, dang, I got to get involved here because, for one, they're not even online, right? They weren't even streaming, for crying out loud. In 2015, we had been streaming at that point for like 4 years. We had a huge bunch of people, that in 2015, we had freaking an online community with 1 million views a month. and they're not even streaming their event. So, I felt obligated, you have to jump in and be part of it at that point. Anyway, so out of frustration. Then you get, so people get into 2A, then they participate in some way. And then once they're there for a while, they spend some time in 2A, right? Like, what do they do, right? What is it about 2A that they're in it? And, we got competition shooting in here. So they're achieving skill and I'm going to say reputation, but I know that's not, I'm talking like reputation over time as a marksman, not necessarily like worrying about your actual reputation, but like, acquiring patches and like, I'm going to say maybe not reputation, but experience. So why would you spend time in it? Because you're achieving skill and experience. That's a better one. Okay, so then eventually we got people that are into guns. They decided to get into 2A. They participate at some level in 2A. They spend some time in 2A. Then they start to get disinterested and they have a lack of satisfaction. Started talking about some of those things. And then is there something beyond lack of participation and disinterest? I guess you could say hate 2A. And then I think you got people there that are victims. People there that just, I don't know, there's probably a lot of reasons why people are going to start hating 2A, but maybe slighted or abused in some way by the system or by a group or by people or whatever it might be. And then, they take it out on the whole thing, especially when people are really into something, they're going to lash out equal and opposite the other way. So I think we're going to find people that are out there that hate us so bad because they weren't whatever. Maybe let's say, I'm just going to say, maybe they're 9mm shooters. And then they're like, man, my 9mm is just not going to be good for anything. And then, everybody hates me. And we don't hate them, right? We were willing to let them shoot a better caliber. But then sometimes they're just going to leave and they're going to start being anti-gun. We can't help it. Sure, we could ban 9mm, but that's not the way to accomplish things. Let's educate, right? Let's see. Life balance, yes, this. Love history, Minuteman. I may not have been born, but that's okay. I am some natural. The mindset is finish line, the realization. Oh, okay, that's a good one. Mindset that there's a finish line. So things that get folks to this lack of interest and dissatisfaction. That's awesome. So I think few recent wins, I was probably going in that direction, but you definitely hit it. Like waiting for a finish line. And even if you don't realize it, I think, or even if not you, but even if they don't realize it, that might be the kind of thing where it's like, dang, it's like, I thought this was going to be a race, but it's not even a marathon. It's just like a freaking way of life. These are people that jog, I'm not into that. Like, I'll help you hustle over there, or like, I'll help people who can't hustle so that we can get stuff accomplished over there. I'll hustle a little bit. I'll scoot, right? And, I'll do that every weekend if necessary. But if all of a sudden it's like, oh no, every single weekend you got to be out here running a marathon, that's too much. That's a lot for some people. Surprised by the cyclical nature. All right. I mean, that's definitely the kind of stuff I'm looking for. So surprised by the cycles. I don't know if I already wrote signals that before. Surprised. Well, I'm going to say not surprised because hopefully you knew about it by this time because you've experienced it, right? So I'm going to say worn down or frustrated, right? I'm going to say frustrated by the cycles. But you know what I can also do? Watch this. I'm going to say copy and then undo, undo, undo. Nope, that didn't work. Surprised Okay. And then I was going to say they choose to participate, and then I was going to say I put it up here more, like things that get folks to decide. Man, sorry, it's been so weird. It won't let me scroll decent. I'm not intending it to be all jerky like this. It just is. Oh, snap. Gunmetal guy threw $10. Thanks, man. I do appreciate that. Much appreciated. It'll definitely go to paying bills. Let's see. So they decide to effort. I don't think we got a super chat all day yesterday. That was one of my favorite chats in a long time. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. They decided to effort for 2A. I was going to try to put in here somewhere that, what's going to make people decide to jump out, or like what's going to dissuade someone. So I think I'm going to put that in here because it's a little different, is what I'm trying to get at. And it's, again, I don't know why it's glitching like this and jumping back and forth on me so much. Over here, we're talking like after they've been in 2A for a while, what's going to cause their disinterest, a lack of whatever. But up here, I'm going to say things that get folks aware of 2A. There's also, when they decide to effort, there's going to be an anti-gun opposite side of this, where some decide to not work for 2A. Right? So not that they tried and they got upset and they decided, oh, no, it's not what I thought. But I'm talking, there's those poopers, shit talkers, lazies. Usually they're lazy. Usually they've never done anything, especially as a group. They've never done anything as a team. I'm going to put that in here. Never done, or never, let's say, accomplished. A lot of people have been on a team before, but they've never accomplished success as a team, because a lot of people feel like if they don't get some sense of accomplishment out of it, then it's not a win, right? If their state didn't win, if their position didn't win, it's not a win. If their thing wasn't as big as it could have been, blah, blah, blah. They don't see the incremental growth of a team as investment in the future of the ability of that team. And people who think that it's like, what do they call that now? I don't know what it's called in sports, where you just pick the winners and you go, oh, let me, pick the best players that I think are the best players. Oh, I was right. Like, they think that that's how shit works. Like, you just support the winners and now you win. And it works in fantasy things where you lose money and make money or whatever. But in real life, yeah, if they've never figured out that, you have to invest in the abilities and in the skills of a group of people and then give them an opportunity to work together before you start to expect results out of them, then there's people who would never invest the time, right? They'd never be part of it. So I'm going to put that in there. It's like some that decide not to even work by it. And I put that there when you said surprised by the cycles, because I think that's what happens is somebody will come along and they'll, right, at this point in the system, and this, I should have made this a flow chart. Oh shit, I can totally make this a flow chart in like 3 different softwares. So I'm going to try making this a flow chart, I think. So people get into guns, then they become aware of 2A, but right away. And you can think of, you've got to know some of these people. These are pessimistic people. They always look down. They never look up. They think looking up is wrong. They are scared to do it. They've never done it, and they don't know how to do it probably. So, as soon as people become aware, and then some people are going to decide to effort right off the bat, you're going to have people shitting on it. Oh, no, you can't do that. So they've never accomplished a success. They've been surprised by those cycles. I don't know. There's probably a lot of reasons, other reasons. I don't want to get into being mean to people, but there's a bunch of reasons why people don't do shit. There's a lot of people that don't do shit. Tsing Ting is saying winning is not instant. It takes time and hard work. Yep. Okay, so I don't know. Is this the whole cycle? Did we just create the whole curve here? Things that get people into guns. So let's keep aware of that. We got things that get people aware of 2A. So getting into guns and being aware of 2A are two totally separate things, right? Being into guns, getting into safety with a gun, knowing how to use a gun, operate a gun safely, knowing how to shoot it accurately, knowing when to shoot it accurately, being comfortable enough to know that you can shoot it accurately if yours or someone's life depended on it, and then getting comfortable and eventually fluent, and then keeping your skill set while you become complacent with your assumed skill set, right? That's a whole nother level. But you get people that are into guns and they'll never touch 2A. Trust me, they either don't care about what the laws are because they just don't care. They don't realize there are laws maybe, or they don't care even if they did. They just are so used to not, caring about laws. They just don't care. They're never going to have the law because they live in a state where there ain't laws. So that could be a thing. Like there's a bunch of people that don't care about laws because they're not used to having laws because their state doesn't have laws. And guess what? Those people are just almost always safer than anybody else in the country. So there's a bunch of people that just ain't thinking about this stuff, and that's fine. That's legal. There's no law against it, and most people fall in that category. So then there's the people that get guns, and then they're like, oh, snap. This ain't just, we don't just get them, right? There's something that is in place for us to be able to do that. And there are people that are actively worrying about it. In 2022, you'd have to, again, be pretty dense to not realize this and to be aware and to probably be at this next level already, deciding to be in the game at some point, right? But again, there are going to be people who always want to win. That's another thing, like always want to play the house, and they assume the house is always going to beat the player, so they never bet with the player. They always bet with the opposing whatever. So they'd be the people that would immediately start hanging out. As soon as the jackboots come up, they go stand over on the side of the jackboots because they always want to win. They never want to lose. Oh, so I'm going to put that in here. Never want to lose. So if you stand around saying, oh, your project will never win, you can stand there watching a successful project get started, exist, and then eventually end, and then consider yourself right. And you'll tell people for the rest of the time that you were right, even though the successful project happened without their support. They just happen to live longer than the successful project. So there's definitely people that go for that. You don't have to do anything. You just have to stand there and say nothing will work, and you're almost always right after some amount of time. During the whole time that the thing is working, you're wrong, but nobody's going to care after the fact. So that's a strategy for a lot of people. So anyhow, you get the people that are naysaying, but is that everybody? I don't know. That's actually quite a few people. Then you get the people that decided to effort to 2A or became aware of it and decided to do something about it. At some point, probably get a little antsy. They're like, I want to do more. So again, maybe they're seeing those patterns. They want to add something. They got to it. They went somewhere and got psyched up. Maybe they met someone. We didn't put that in here. So maybe they met someone in the game, is what I'm going to say. And here's the deal. I don't think that's always being inspired by somebody so good. I know a couple of people that stick around because if they didn't, then the people that would be left suck. Sorry, that's how it is. So sometimes you meet people in the game and you're like, I need to join the game because these players aren't going to do it. Like they don't have everything. And it gets back to this wanting to add your skill set, but not everybody comes along and says, I got a skill set. Who needs it? Where can I push my skill set on? Some people are just minding their business with some skills, and then they meet somebody who's in dire need, and they're like, all right, well, I guess I need to be a part of this. Actually, that happens almost all the time. So, think about where that doesn't happen. It happens all the time, in all parts of life. So then once people are participating, you got a lot of group dynamics there. Let's not forget that. And that's part of the reason I wanted to do a show like this. I'd actually planned to bring everybody together. Maybe I'll do that next week, give them a little more time to get ready for it. But, there's going to be a life cycle of everyone's ability to be part of it, right? And whatever it is that they're doing, here's the thing. We're talking about theoretically, but here's the other thing. We could be talking about you. Imagine I'm pointing right at you. You could be talking about you right now. Or we could be talking about them, and I could be pointing to the person right next to you, or the person who is your best friend, or the person you hate because they're a jerk. There's a couple of them out there, right? You. So you are going to be around for so long, and you have X amount of time in on the playing field. So some people need to cut their teeth. They're going to be here for a long time, and they get in there and they start playing, and they figure they got all the time in the world. A lot of people who've been around for a while know that not everyone sticks around for a while. Some people are going to get hurt or get the ability to play taken away from them. And very few people are going to last through the end. And very few of those people that last through the end are going to have started from the beginning with that ambition. A lot of the people, if you pay attention to anything in life, a lot of the people that are standing around fall into that, wherever the slot is where it says, well, I'm standing here. We don't have that anywhere. But, you choose to participate with 8 people and 7 of them fall away, you're still standing there. It's kind of like, well, you know how to do. You might feel like you're the only one holding the baton. So, there's the time spent. I don't know where to put that, but, there's that element to it. And so there's going to be those people that are there kind of filling a seat. They need to have someone here, and I'm here, and I don't want there to not be anybody here, but I don't want to be here, and I'm not good at it. There's definitely that area. And there's the people that figure out, right, that, hey, we've been around for a while, and that's the playing field, and those are the people and the roles, and I'm either going to be part of that or I'm not. So I guess when I'm saying, this is to you, then again, figure out where you're at and all that if you can, and where you figure, how much there's going to be. The budgeting, time, resource, effort is all a personal thing, and I'm sure it changes all the time. That's probably a whole different one. But as far as motivation goes, everybody's got a cycle. So everybody's got a life cycle, maybe, is that the way to say it? So figure out if you're on a similar life trajectory as this, where you're at on the path, what you think your path might be. What do you think that other person's path might be? Is there something that you can do to assist? Is there something that you're doing that's hindering? Holy shit, right? What if some people that were out there just farting in the face of people that are trying to do their thing would figure it out, that they get the fuck out of the way and quit doing that? How much better everybody'd be, right? So, figure out where people are around you in the mix. And let's just not assume that we're all sitting in a giant theater being presented with stuff that we have to observe. We live on a planet that's flying through a space with this big ass sun over here giving us free heat all the time. And most of the time when we ain't worried about the little stuff, because we're humans and we got the internet and we pay attention to stuff, we're worrying about the big stuff and how we're leaving this rock to the next group of humans that got to deal with it. And we can either watch what other people are doing, or we can be part of what's happening. I encourage the people that are part of it to understand that they are a part of it. Grassroots is the freaking pieces of grass. Those blades of grass that have a gun behind them is your freaking gun, man. It ain't somebody else's gun. And, who is it that's scared of those blades of grass? The gun behind those blades of grass. Is it the government? That's stupid. That's a garbage discussion. Is it the cartels 100 miles south of me? Yeah, that's who's scared of those blades of grass. Is it the organized crime back in the 30s? Yeah, they were scared shitless of the individuals with guns. So let's remember that those guns behind those blades of grass are ours, that they're only dangerous to people that want to infringe on our individual rights, that by owning them, we're not a danger to anybody. We're an inspiration to each other in the future. Hopefully, people that have come and done the stuff that needed to be did are satisfied and happy, hopefully having a lot of fun watching us do our thing with the freedoms that we've got. But we've inherited some awesome freedoms, right? We got to hand those things down in such a way that that they're useful and that they can be applied. And again, we've got time on the clock to do that, time in the game to do that. And I want everybody to appreciate how much time you've spent. Don't neglect how much time you've already put into it, and appreciate that. And then consider how much time you might have going forward, and to pace your situation, right? Pace your growth and your effort and your energies for how long a fight you think there might be and how long you got to play. With that, not everybody's going to play on the field all the time. And there's people that need to make the uniforms. There's people that need to keep them refreshed. There's people that'll work on their strategies before and after, right? There's the fans that keep them going. There's the cheerleaders. There's the I don't know, every other thing that sports has that we're using, I guess, is the analogy tonight. So with that, I don't know what else to say. I didn't really have a lecture planned. I just felt like chatting for a bit about Second Amendment motivation and methods. I don't know if there's too many other people talking about this stuff, but if there are, let them know that on Mondays we talk about it. They're welcome to join us. If you're got questions or ideas or something to add, feel free to. Ting Ting says the Japanese were not afraid of the Chinese as much as they were the Americans because of the barrel behind every blade of grass. You're talking about back in the day when everybody was getting pushed around by imperialism and stuff. Exactly, and we see that even today. I'll say we see it today with the crime that happens in some countries where the criminals aren't at all concerned about the individuals that they're smashing and driving over and being mean to in the process of worrying about each other and the governments that they're fighting with, when that stuff wouldn't play in a place where the criminals would just lay in the streets, perishing silently if in a place where people wouldn't put up with that stuff happening. And it's tough because it's not that there has to be gunfights. That's actually a bullshit way of saying it. It's more like the stuff can't thrive here because there's nowhere for it to take hold. That stuff can only take hold with desperation and circumstances that create the desperation. So again, the individual freedom prevents that stuff from happening here. The guns are a representation of it. And the presence of the individual freedom, which is signified by guns, is what actually stops the organized criminal stuff, which is really way worse than the government stuff. The government stuff is slow. The government stuff requires people becoming politicians and then supporting those people who become politicians. But it's easier to just shake your fist and say that it's somebody else's fault. That's a whole other conversation. So again, thanks everybody. Then most people jumped out of here by now live. So either that's a factor of it being late or a factor of conversation not being super interesting. But either way, I'm going to keep putting this stuff out there on Mondays. Next week, we'll either have a group conversation with a bunch of the people that we've been interviewing in the past weeks, or we'll have new interviews on the way. On Tuesdays, we deal with 2A. We talk about 2A. Let me scroll down. No, everything's good to go. So on Tuesdays, we talk about 2A. Tomorrow, it is North Carolina, I believe. And I'm just going to double check that I didn't just waste all of that time, because I think it's saved. Tomorrow it is North. Always freak out talking and typing at the same time. Oh, no, good. We got the description of the video there. All that stuff we just typed in there. Good to go. So yeah, tomorrow is North Carolina. And then Wednesday, we've got the technical quiz. Thursday, I might be doing something that I didn't get asked to go to the Gun Rights Policy Conference, or I guess the AMCON, and they had asked me to do a presentation for it, but then they didn't ask me to do the presentation. So I was thinking about just presenting that presentation on Thursday. So if I can finish it before Thursday, then I'll offer the presentation that I was going to do at the AMCON, and then Friday, we wrap up the week. So thanks everybody for joining us. We had a pretty good conversation yesterday with one of the Kalashnikov gunsmiths in Las Vegas. So Las Vegas has quite a bit of firearms tourism, and we talked a bit about Kalashnikovs and building and the types of Kalashnikovs and how to build them and stuff. But then we also talked about Vegas and how many rounds of ammo are shot by how many people every single day in Las Vegas. It's really interesting stuff. So thanks again to our Patreons, the people that subscribe to what we do. Most of them, we talk about them, or we flash the names of everybody. Oop, I'm flipping the wrong screen over here. When we start the show off. And these are people that offer a cup of coffee. Some of them buy us lunch once a month, and that adds up. It pays the bills. It pays most of the bills for the servers and the software, and a chunk of the time it takes to spend on the projects like this one and the different websites we've got out there, and of course the different campaigns and projects we've got going on the various platforms. So thanks to those Patreons, the people that support us. Thanks to the people that show up live and are part of the live shows. If you're listening in the future, or as a podcast. Thanks to you for downloading or listening. Next time you do, leave us some feedback so we know which ones of those channels out there are the ones that are the ones that we should definitely hit each week when we go to make the decisions on where to stream it. It's not that it costs too much, really. Most of them are free. It's just that, it takes some time each weekend. And if I've got X amount of time, which one should I hit first? We just started going out to Sirius Radio, Sirius XM. So I'm pretty stoked about that. So if you listen on Sirius Radio, just look for Daily Gun Show. You should find it there. If you don't, let me know. But yeah, it's going out to satellite radio, which is pretty awesome. So I like that when I'm traveling. All right. Well, again, thanks to the people that show up live. I think nobody said anything. So I'm Gunmetal Guy just said, have a good one. So I guess there are some people still out there with Ting Ting. Oh, I guess the results of the poll over here are Second Amendment activists come in at 45%, 2A history at 27%. Kind of hiccup there. And then crowd funding or crowd efforting or grassroots is at 18%. And then 2A organizations came in last at 9%. So it doesn't look like people are depending on the 2A organizations for their 2A. But that doesn't surprise me when we're talking to mostly activists. All right. Thanks again to DJ for dropping links. Much appreciated. We will end it with a commercial for our Gear website store. We sell stuff over there. We've been 3D printing a bunch of new items. And the orders from the store, again, help us pay for what we do. Thanks for watching and listening. GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
Shit. Ninja? Ninja! Ninja!
Tonight's episode, Triangle of Terror.
So let us know what you think. We'll be watching the comments wherever you find the video, over on gunstreamer.com or on guntube.org. Thank you for supporting our projects. If you'd like to buy us a cup of coffee, check out our Patreon channel.
The guys and gals of gunwebsites.com encourages you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thank you for watching gunwebsites.com.